Don't sleep on this when you can sleep on this. I'm Home DIY Dan. I'm going to teach you how to build the bed of your dreams for your dreams so you can float on cloud nine. Any bigger project I do, I always do a 3D model. One, so I can see how it's going to turn out, and two, it gives me a detailed drawing of everything I need. So for the bed, I went through and I modeled all of it. The 2x4s, the 2x10s. This helps give me accurate measurements before I even start, so I know exactly how much lumber I'm going to need. And I've got a detailed cut list essentially built right there that I can always come back and look at. I then take that model and throw it into an augmented reality app so I can see exactly how everything is going to look. Now let's get to building this. Alright, so all the boards here that I'm using, I cut at a 45-degree angle so that the outside corners would meet up nicely in what's called a miter joint. Now you don't necessarily have to do this, you could have them come together, but it doesn't give you as clean of a look. And it also helps if you lower the saw blade enough to cut through the board. So after I was done cutting the 2x10s with the circular saw, I went over to the Mitre Saw, and I'm cutting off the corner of the 2x4s first. Doesn't really matter how far. And then I'm going to measure out how long that board's going to be, mark it, and then I'm going to do a walking cut. So I'm going to walk myself onto where that line is by moving the board incrementally until I hit exactly where I want that cut to be, and then cut right through. So now we're going to cut the 1x6s at a 45-degree angle. We'll show you what those are used for in a little bit. But I had to use the circ saw because the miter saw wouldn't go all the way through. So then I took some 120 grit sandpaper and sanded down the corners to make them nice and smooth, get rid of all the cut edges, and then started drilling it all and screwing it all together. I pre-drilled all the holes to ensure that I didn't split the wood, and each joint got 2 screws to ensure that there was a tight connection and it wouldn't come apart. So we're building the base to the floating bed right now. After I got all the corners put together, I went through and I marked 16 inches on center on the long side so that I could put the center supports through the middle. All the wood was already pre-cut to the dimensions that I had drawn out earlier in the 3D model. So it made it really easy to just go through and assemble everything, as long as my cuts were accurate, which most of them were. I didn't really have any issue there. So then I went through and I just drilled 2 holes on each side and put screws in through that. Now we're going to go through and add extra supports. This will be good for keeping the horizontal pieces together. It'll also be helpful for when you put the top part on, that it'll have something that you can screw into to support the top of the bed. Each one of these is going to get 2 screws. Now I marked the center on the base and on the 2x4s and lined those up, and then put 4-inch screws through the top of the 2x4s into the base to ensure that they didn't go anywhere. I then put the support pieces in between the 2x4s and made sure everything lined up perfectly. I then put the outside pieces, drilled 2 holes, put the screws in for that, and that gave the nice outside frame of the bed. This can be a little tricky to do if you don't have help, as you got to make sure that everything's flush and level with the other 2x4s that are already there. Now you can use braces to support it, scrap wood, whatever, to hold it up. I just held it in place, drilled a hole, and put a screw through one of the middle pieces, and that helped keep it all. You're going to want to make sure that this front piece is really well secured, as there's going to be nothing except for the sides supporting it, really. You will have the cross members going from that 2x4 as shown here, but if you don't have enough support here, when you sit on the edge of the bed, it could cause problems if there's not enough support. So just make sure that it's very well secured and test it out. Now we're going to add those 1x6s that we cut earlier. This will be the decorative top of the bed. The middle portion there is going to be covered in plywood, and that's going to be where the actual mattress sits. Now we're doing a full size for this one. You can change the dimensions and do a king, a queen, or a twin, but the 1x6s are going to be what's shown on the outside of the mattress. When I'm screwing these down, I'm trying to keep it as close to the inside towards the mattress as possible because I don't want the screws showing. I could have done pocket holes through the 2x4s, but this was easier. And if you're really concerned about the holes, you can always fill it in with wood putty. Not a big deal. So now that it's all put together, we're going to start sanding the outside. Don't have to worry about the 2x4s, just the 1x6s and the 2x10s on the bottom there for the base. I'm using a stain that I've never actually used before. It's an interesting product. So I tried treating it like a normal stain and wiping it off after I had put it on, but I got better results when I let it sit. I tried different techniques on the base where it wasn't as easily seen, and it seemed to turn out better when I just put it on and let it dry. The brush marks went away. It hit it really well. It seems to be a very good product. I actually like it a bit more than a normal stain, and it saves you from having to do the polyurethane step. I did do 2 coats, and in between coats I sanded it down with 400 grit sandpaper, wiped it off, and then let it dry overnight. So now we're just cutting the plywood for the middle of the bed frame where the mattress will sit. It's a bit too long for a full, so you gotta trim it down. And then width-wise, I needed to trim it down because I wanted it to hit some of those center supports that I had put in there. The kids had hidden my chalk line for that first couple cuts. Finally found it and was able to make the long cuts with it, which made my life so much easier. So now that we got the plywood, the first sheet cut to size, we're just going to go around and secure it to all the 2x4s in the bed frame, just to make sure that it doesn't go anywhere. Now I'm using OSB, and I left the rough side up so that the mattress has something to grab onto and you're not sliding around. Made sure to screw into all the outside edges, and then I did put a couple in the middle. Here we're just cutting that second sheet that'll fill in that gap. Again, just go through and secure that piece of OSB to all the 2x4s just to ensure that it doesn't go anywhere. And then finally, I added some smart lights around the bottom. I'll put a link in the description to the ones I use. They're Alexa enabled and you can control them with your phone. If you guys want to build this for yourself, head over to homediydan.com and sign up for the email newsletter. I'll send you the full build plan and cut list for everything you need to get this done. And if you like videos like this and you want to see more of them, hit that subscribe button. Now let's see how this turned out.